Food halls selling street food have been a saviour for some shopping districts. They're often set in big covered spaces with a central seating area and then all around it small kitchens rented out to independent traders. These halls have been opening all over the place, but the pressures of COVID, then the energy crisis and inflation are taking their toll. Food halls are closing. 2 have gone in Greater Manchester, 1 in Stratford, 1 in Sale. A Keelan food hall in Skipton closed just after Christmas. A food hall closed in Kings Heath in Birmingham last year. It was open for only 3 months, and one has gone in Islington in North London. Richard Johnson is a food journalist and the founder of the British Street Food Awards. And Sue Lee is the owner of Dim Sum Sue. She had stands in the 2 food halls in Stratford and Sale that have now closed. Sue Lee, if I could start with you, tell us a bit about the food that you make and sell.
Oh, right, yeah. So I do traditional food, but with a Western twist. So that's why I call it Chinese with a twist. Because some traditional Chinese food, not English taste. Let's put it that way.
So what kind of things? Give us an example. What's your bestseller?
Yeah. Bestsellers of my bowels. So I do different things like, I used to do more things like very traditional recipes like belly pork, but people have gone a bit more healthier now. So we do things like crispy chicken with hoisin or crispy beef, bows, things like that. And then I do dumplings and wontons, which are still traditional, but I do it in a different format because a lot of the times I do it on gas. So it does, and it's outdoors, so it takes longer to cook. So I do it flat instead of the traditional shape, which I used to do.
Tell us then what happened with the food halls in Stratford and Sale, because you had stalls in both of those halls.
Yeah, it started well, but I think it's just when I first started, there wasn't many food halls. Later on, more and more food halls started popping up here and there, and then it really went down when electricity and gas went up. Everything went extreme to a lot of people. That's why you probably got like pubs and things like that closing as well, because electricity's just gone sky high.
So
people can't afford it.
Sorry, that's what I was going to say. You mean people couldn't afford to come?
Yeah.
What did
It's not coming. It's more the businesses had to charge more.
Yeah.
Because the electricity bill, just like a lot of pubs, because they've got to have certain things on. You can't just turn the light on when one person's in the room. You know, they've got to have it on all the time, things like that, really.
So, Sue, tell us what you were charging then. You said that your bowls were the best sellers. What do you charge for a bowl of food?
Yeah, I mean, now, to tell you the truth, I've only actually gone up by 50p because I've got to keep things down because people's tight money. But I used to charge from like about $6.50. Now the maximum I can do is $7.50. But I do a deal where you buy 2, you get them for 50p less. But if I did it at the food halls, I'd have to charge even more because they've got it's like a third, and then you've got your VAT on top, the commission. So it's a bigger fee, you know, for which they have to do, which I understand.
Richard, you've added food halls as a category to your street food awards. How do you define street food then?
Street food is just food that's served on the street, which I think, when you move it indoors, it does create a lot of problems. I mean, there are street food ranges being sold by the supermarkets now. So there is an element that we have to be careful here, that people are trying to steal the clothes of street food and present it to a different market.
It's maybe a daft question then, but what is good street food? If street food's just any food sold on the street, what would you define as good street food, worth keeping, worth worrying about, worth preserving?
Well, most of it. I mean, that's the point of the British Street Food Awards, the European Street Food Awards and the USA Street Food Awards, is we're finding the best independent traders. And that's another kind of point of potential conflict with food halls is, are these going to be independent traders going in there? I know Sue, I've known Sue for years. So to take her, but then often what happens is that they try and replicate Sue and put her somewhere else and use her branding and grow her brand, which is nice if that's what Sue wants, and Sue wants to become a brand, and Sue's happy with the menu being handed out to people we don't know to present that food on her behalf. it's capitalism, but it needs watching. I think food halls have a potential to be a wonderful thing. I think they've really helped. When I first started doing the British Street Food Awards was, 14 years ago, there was only a handful of traders that were doing it full time. It was essentially a summer distraction, and it was something they would do, but they'd obviously have a second business. Now it's grown to the point where, it's a proper sector of the business. I think it's the most exciting. It's like a laboratory for new food ideas being sold, and established bricks and mortar restaurants are looking at what street food traders are doing, because they can be more spontaneous, try different ways of cooking. So
Richard,
I think
you wonder though, don't you? Are people just not eating out as much as they did for reasons that we all understand, in the way that Sue describes? Or do you think that there's a bigger problem here?
I think the problem is with hospitality in general. I mean, Sue touched all the points, inflation, energy prices, cost of living, VAT. It needs a massive hand to survive. It's absolutely, but I think food halls are probably escaping it better than high street restaurants. I think there are probably, I spoke to Simon Anderson, who's an expert on the sector. He said there are over 100 food halls, 30 in development, and he said 5 or 6 that have closed, which is a better attrition rate than you'd find in the high street in terms of restaurants. So they should be great. If you go with a few friends to sit down somewhere and be able to order from 8 or 9 different places, that's great. That's better than a traditional restaurant, as long as these are good points of service. You can use an app, so the stuff gets delivered to you. It's a relaxed way of eating. So that's the good bit. I think the bad bit is when it's passed off as a street food. It's passed off as a bit more mom and pop than it really is, because street food's about passion. These people are a proper passion projects, and if they're turned into brands too easily, then I think it really denigrates the excitement, the experience of eating actually outside in your hands with your friends.
So did you ever want to become a brand, to have your own restaurant, or did you want to just keep going on a small scale?
Keep going on a small scale, because I think when you go as a brand, you lose your passion, just like Richard said. You do lose your passion. I've seen a lot of it. People that used to do something and they've changed it.
I guess you have to hand over, as he was saying. You have to you can't do it all yourself. Tell us where you're selling now.
I go more the northwest now, because in the past I used to go. I just basically go Greater Manchester area. But in the past I used to do Birmingham, Sheffield, Leeds.
But you sell at events. I mean, what are you selling from? A kind of van?
Like a gazebo.
I see.
Mainly gas, but then there's odd ones, like I do little pubs, I do outside little pubs, I do little food events, things like that as well, which is quite nice, because they're all independent really, and all passionate and doing the food, like Richard said.
Oh, well, good luck to you anyway. That was Sue Lee
thank you.
and Richard Johnson. We're sticking with this subject of eating out and the choices that we're making in our phone in tomorrow. We'd like to know what's happening with pubs and restaurants where you live. You can email us about that right now. Here's the address, you and yours, @bbc.co.uk. For nearly 2 years, 17,000 customers of a failed pension firm called